To be honest, I'm a little nervous about shooting this Vetterli for the first time. What's up guys, Readiness Reviews here with you again, and I just spent the last 6 hours cleaning guns that probably haven't been shot in 100 years because Milsurp Munitions has once again sent us their latest ammunition for testing. These cartridges are brand new to the market and for decades have been super scarce or completely inexistent. This is their Mannlicher 8x50R, specifically designed for straight pull rifles and carbines that were not updated to the 8x56R cartridge, and they also sent me a box of their 6.5 Vetterli. This is essentially the same cartridge as 6.5x52 Carcano, but it has been downloaded to a pressure that is safe to operate in these extremely sketchy and quite ancient antique Vetterli-Carcano rifles. These rifles are not safe to shoot with factory ammunition. That is supposedly until now with this loading from Milsurp Munitions. In today's video, we will be checking out each of these new cartridges. We'll see how they perform on range and if they are indeed safe for these old school rifles. Now let's see if Milsurp Munitions can resurrect these military relics. So here is our newest ammunition from Milsurp Munitions, 6.5 Vetterli and 8x50R. To my knowledge, this is the very first time there has ever been factory-loaded ammunition specifically for Vetterli rifles. And although there have been a couple instances of companies loading 8x50R over the past few years, those runs have been in such small numbers that the price is extremely high, and to be honest, very few people even had the opportunity to pick any of it up. Their 6.5 Vetterli loading is using a .264 diameter projectile, 139 grain, and they're touting 2,000 feet per second. On the reverse of the box, they do have a warning. You must have your Vetterli inspected and certified by gunsmith that it is safe to fire before use, and they're not joking around about that. These Vetterlis are very sketchy rifles. They have a depiction of the cartridge there, and let's get a look at one. So right away, it looks like they decided to use a Spitzer cartridge because that bullet is pointed just a little bit. The ammunition encountered in Italian military service would have been more like these, a very long, round bottlenose cartridge, but this Italian military ammo is loaded to the specifications of a Carcano rifle, whereas our 6.5 Vetterli, of course, has been downloaded to be safe to fire in a Vetterli rifle. Milsurp Munitions is using NTW head stamp brass, and it is standard 6.5x52 Carcano brass that they are using. Rattling this around, I can really hear that the powder is very loose in there. As for our 8x50R Mannlicher cartridge, these are using .323 diameter projectiles, 198 grain, coming in at 2,300 feet per second. We also have a bullet depiction on the back of this box, 8mm M1895 Patron. This ammunition is using PPU brass. It is an 8x56 rimmed cartridge that has been shaved down and re-necked to the appropriate 50mm length. They are using a pointed Spitzer projectile. This is an example of the far more common 8x56R. They are the exact same PPU brass, but it's pretty striking how much shorter the Milsurp Munitions ammo is. Now these 8x50 cartridges do work just fine in a clip designed for an 8x56 cartridge. These particular clips that I'm using are from World War II, and despite this ammo being World War I spec, it does fit and operate perfectly fine. This 8x50R ammunition is suitable for both M95 rifles and carbines coming from RTI. I did have hopes that this ammunition would also function in this oddball rifle. This is a Siamese Type 46 Mauser made in Japan. These rifles are chambered in 8x52R, and they share the same Austrian parent cartridge of our M95. Now, even though the casing on these Milsurp munition cartridges are 50mm, and the chamber on this rifle is 52mm, when we attempt to chamber a cartridge here, the bolt, unfortunately, will not close. I was hopeful, but not surprised that it doesn't work. I suppose, despite having the same parent cartridge, they are uniquely different cartridges, and so I will remain on the search for the nearly impossible to find 8x52R. So our Milsurp Munitions here seems to be in fine physical condition. I think what we really want to see is how well the ammunition performs at the range. So our first rifle here is a B-grade Steyr Mannlicher M95 from Royal Tiger Imports. Of my 3 M95 long rifles, This one has the best bore by a long shot, and so I figured it was best to do the majority of our shooting with this rifle. I took a couple single shots here first just to see where we were at on paper. I'm aiming dead center at the big red dot. And then you can see our round hit between two targets, and it was a keyhole. And I had poor extraction on this case. Of course, that's going to be a rifle issue, not an ammo issue. After that first shot, I remembered that the sight slider was missing on this rifle, and so I decided to stand up the ladder sight to maybe improve the point of impact just a little bit. Loading up another single round here. For this next shot, I'm moving down one target. And there it is, a nice clean hole, not a keyhole, and very close to my point of aim. After that last one, I was getting pretty excited, and I geared up here for a full 3-round group, shooting at our center target here. The first round of this group left a nice clean hole just north of the target center, really a good hit. But then things kind of go down the drain. Our second hit was super far south, way off target, and a keyhole. And then our third round here was no doubt a keyhole as well, and completely missed the paper altogether. Keep in mind, this is a massive target. So aside from that first round, that very last group was complete trash. I did notice that between each round, my rear sight was moving around a little bit, and that might have played into the poor accuracy that we got. So I set up for another 3-shot group here with our B-grade rifle, making sure that the sight was returned to the right position after each round. Still aiming for our middle target. First round, super low, and a keyhole. The second round of this group was a return to positivity. It kind of fell between two targets here, but left a nice clean, non-keyhole hole. And then as I've come to expect with this rifle, the third round was a wild one. And you can see it here, shooting down some leaves way off the target. I decided to make a switch to my standard grade Steyr Mannlicher from RTI. This rifle has a much smoother action, but was missing the sight slider just like the B grade. And I would consider the bore on this rifle to be in worse condition than my B grade. The muzzle is very worn with an ovaled crown. Point of aim is still the middle target. And we have a keyhole round, low and to the right. Round number 2 was completely lobbed off target. Again, into the brush, destroying a little leaf there. After that one, I decided it was just a waste of ammo to shoot anymore with this rifle. And so we moved over to the M95 carbine, also a B-grade example. The bore condition on this one is pretty rough, just like the majority of these rifles from Royal Tiger Imports. Aiming at the center target here. And our round hits low and left. Unfortunately, a keyhole, but pretty close to the target. My case on this one had a failure to eject. I seriously doubt that has anything to do with the ammunition. This rifle is dogged out, so I'm not surprised that it might have a malfunction like that. So our first round of shooting there was performed with my RTI B-grade Steyr Mannlicher M95 rifle here. This rifle is in really rough external condition, but of my 4 rifles from RTI chambered in 8x50R, this one absolutely has the best bore. If we do a muzzle test with our 8x50 cartridge here, it goes in pretty deep, but we can certainly see some copper. Now we'll do that same test on my B-grade carbine example, and it eats the bullet all the way to the case, and that's the same kind of condition that my other 2 long rifles are in as well. Even with this rifle having the best bore out of the bunch, it still keyholed more than 50% of the time, and in reality is a pretty poor example of this type of rifle. And I feel a little bit bad that these were the only rifles that I had to test the Milsurp ammunition in. I don't fault Milsurp Munitions at all for the poor accuracy that I experienced in all of my 8x50R rifles. The ammo functioned in the rifle as well as I could expect. It fed super smooth despite a couple of these rifles having super rough actions. Every time I pulled the trigger, the ammo went boom, and in a couple cases it even hit basically where I was aiming. There's not a single doubt in my mind that with a better conditioned example of one of these rifles, this ammunition will perform far better. And I think my results of this shooting is more of a testament to how terrible the condition of these RTI rifles is, more than it is how good the ammo is. Speaking on the poor condition of the rifles, look how pushed out some of the primers on the spent brass are. That raised up primer is a dead giveaway for poor head spacing, and I'm not the least bit surprised that our RTI rifles have some jacked up head space. I am super happy that I finally got to pull the trigger on some of my 8x50R rifles. I just wish I would have had an overall nicer rifle to really put the ammo to the test. I think it's important that I mention that you should probably not try to fire Milsurp Munitions 8x50R ammunition out of the older 1888 and 1888-90 Mannlicher straight pull rifles. These rifles have a different action from the M95s. A straight pull action that is far weaker than that of the M95. All the locking is done by this little wedge in the back, and it is not designed to withstand the pressures of these 8x50R cartridges. However, as I'll demonstrate here, this ammo does load and lock in these older rifles. No doubt if that trigger was pulled, this rifle would fire, but I don't think that would be very safe given the strength of these actions. So if you're the owner of one of these much older Mannlicher straight pulls, that is certainly something to keep in mind. So our 8x50R testing was inconclusive at the best, but what about the 6.5 Vetterli? To be honest, I'm a little nervous about shooting this Vetterli for the first time. These firearms were designed for an old school black powder cartridge, and of course we're shooting a modern smokeless powder cartridge through it now. As we've seen on CN Arsenal, these rifles have a chance to go boom, and I'm hoping mine doesn't. It's very important that if you're planning on shooting any of this Milsurp Munitions ammo in your Vetterli, that you have your Vetterli inspected by a gunsmith to verify that it is indeed safe to shoot. Even with this ammo being specifically designed for the Vetterli rifle, you certainly want to err on the side of caution with these guns. For one, I recommend making sure that each bullet actually exits the barrel to make sure that you haven't experienced a squib load. The recoil on this ammo is so light that it would be hard to tell the difference between a normal round and a squib round. As you can see here, while firing, I keep my support hand well to the rear of the action, so on the off chance that we did experience some kind of fatal detonation, my arm would be a bit further from danger, and you absolutely have to wear eye protection with these rifles because you really never know what can happen. I was shocked at how well our Milsurp Munitions 6.5 Vetterli performed in my ancient Vetterli rifle. My example was originally made in 1873, and as we can tell here on the bottom, it underwent every update these rifles went through. Sure, it was hitting high and to the right, but the ammunition did its job with really solid groups. This particular one impressed the heck out of me. Sure, it's not sub-MOA or anything, but this rifle was made in 1873, and I managed a group that tight. I also decided to put in a group with a standard Fucili Modello 1891 Carcano. This is the best group I've ever managed with this particular rifle. It's pretty much dead centered, just high, and typically this rifle shoots ultra high. Even though they're using the smaller .264 diameter projectile with this, it is shooting super good out of a Carcano. And my loose theory as to why this shot a lot closer to point of aim than this rifle normally does is that this Vetterli ammo is downloaded. And so perhaps the mere fact that the bullet is moving slower is causing our point of impact to be a bit lower than it would normally be with the rifle. Let's take a quick look here at my chronograph results. 1286, 1002, 1766, and I don't think it's 4,000, so we'll call that one an error. This is the 6.5 Vetterli out of a 6.5 Carcano. 1462, 1506. Unfortunately, the chrono had very odd results. They were all over the place with every rifle I tried, so I decided to stop wasting ammo and leave the chronograph testing to somebody else. This was my second time having the opportunity to try out Milsurp Munitions ammo, and unlike the first time, I experienced zero issues this go around, and I was pretty darn impressed with the quality and performance. What Milsurp Munitions is really offering, though, is an opportunity to shoot rifles that have laid dormant for 100 years. Guns like my Vetterli and the Mannlicher M95s have simply not had ammunition options for ages. I'm super thankful that Milsurp Munitions is offering this ammo at all. It has long been time for a company to take on the task of loading these obsolete cartridges, and I wish Milsurp Munitions all the best in their endeavors. I would love to see even more oddball cartridges from them, such as 8mm Nambu, French Ordnance, and that 8x52R for our Siamese Mausers. I'm hoping that their first couple production runs here have been successful, and maybe, just maybe, we will see some other cartridges from them in the future. Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the thumbs up to help it out with the algorithm. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of my future Milsurp firearms and ammunition content. If you have any personal experience with Milsurp Munitions, let me know about it down in the comments, and I will catch you guys in the next video. See you then. Peace.